In South Africa, between the years 1948 and 1994, apartheid was enforced upon its people. Apartheid was a system of legalized segregation enforced by South Africa's National Party. Most, if not all, its people disagreed with this, but one man who did had a huge influence on its abolishment, and that man's name is Nelson Mandela, one of South Africa's most beloved heroes. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in a village called Mesvo, near Umtata. At the age of 7, he became the first member of his family to attend school. It was there that he received his name Nelson. He was named after a British admiral, Horatio Nelson, by his teacher, who thought his real name, Rolihlahla, was hard to pronounce and would stand out too much in the presence of white people. This might have been what started Mandela's anti-racial movement later on in his life. At the time Mandela turned 9, his father died, and it was then that he went to live with the regent. Regent, meaning one who reigns, is the equivalent to the king of the Transeki people. During his stay there, he was to be groomed to assume high office. After watching the cases that occurred in the regent's court, Mandela was inspired to become a lawyer. When he completed his primary education, he enrolled in Haroldtown, a Wesleyan secondary school. At the age of 19, Mandela attended Fort Hare University in order to earn his bachelor's associates. Mandela was elected into the Fort Hare's Representative Council and joined their protest against the university's policies. Because of his involvement in the protest, he was suspended from school. He decided to finish his BA at Johannesburg while working as an article clerk at a law firm. In 1942, Mandela joined the African National Congress, the ANC. During the Second World War, some of the members of the ANC banded together to turn the ANC into a mass movement. This group consisted of 60 members, including William Nkomo, Walter Sisulu, Oliver R. Tambo, Ashley P. Manda, and of course Nelson Mandela. Under the leadership of Anton Lembede, they gathered support from millions of people with their peaceful actions. Soon they realized that their peaceful methods were inadequate for change, so Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and Walter Sisulu formed the African National Congress Youth League, the ANCLY. In 1947, Mandela proved himself through his hard work and dedication towards their cause, and was elected the secretaryship of the Youth League. A year later, the National Party ruled in favor of the apartheid policies. These policies significantly lowered rights for black people, so Mandela once again engaged in resistance to these policies. Then in 1952, Mandela, along with Oliver Tambo, opened the first black legal firm in South Africa. Together, Mandela and Tambo provided very cheap and/or free legal counsel to those who would not have otherwise. Mandela was also prominent in the ANC's 1952 Defiance campaign, which led Mandela and 155 other anti-apartheid activists to be charged with treason. The treason trial of 1956 to 1961 resulted in a 5-year jail sentence. Near the end of this trial, a peaceful protest ended up with 69 of the protesters dead. It was then that the government banned the ANC and Mandela went into hiding. During his hiding, Mandela started an underground military group with armed resistance. In 1962, the sentencing of the treason trial was finally put into action, and Mandela was captured after 17 months on the run. In October of that same year, Mandela escaped once again and was on the run. Unfortunately, he was captured once again, but this time he was sentenced to life in prison due to conviction of sabotage and treason. At first, Mandela spent his life sentence at the Robben Island prison, a maximum security prison on a small island off the near coast, Cape Town. But in April 1984, he was transferred to Pollsmoor prison in Cape Town. In December 1988, he was moved to the Victor Verster prison near Paarl, where he would remain for the rest of his sentence. While in prison, Mandela was offered many deals for his freedom, but doing so would have caused him to go against his cause, so he rejected all of them. Mandela was finally released in 1990 after almost 3 decades in prison. The man responsible for his short sentence was Frederick William de Klerk, who also lifted the ban on the ANC. Mandela continued with his fight for democracy and was elected president of the ANC in 1991. 2 years later, Mandela and de Klerk were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for the work for the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime and for laying the foundations for a new democratic South Africa. The first free presidential election was held in South Africa in April of 1994. With 62% of the votes, Nelson Mandela, at the age of 83, became the first elected president of South Africa. Mandela remained in office for 6 years, from April 1994 to June 1999. Nelson Mandela has and will always fight for what is right without one moment's hesitation. His devotion to democracy and equality has freed South Africa from its harmful apartheid policies, and it's no wonder that he is viewed as a beloved hero and an inspiration to all who fight in what they believe.